grading papers tonight? Are you being teacher Charlie tonight?
No, hold on a second. No, I'm not.
I don't know if you guys know, but Charlie's actually a teacher on the side.
Hold on.
And
Actually, I was grading papers, as a matter of fact.
and the girls in your class, they all sing "Hot for Teacher."
What? Clap. Hot for teacher?
Hot for teacher.
Or clap for...
Yeah. You get that a lot? You get girls sending you that song, "Hot for Teacher"?
No. I got to tell you what happened a long time ago when I first started teaching. Very first day, I was at Willamette High School, and it's a beat down, broken down school. And I'm opening the door to my room, and the keys just don't work. You can't get them out of the lock, but there was plenty of room for the kids to get around me. So somebody puts their shoulder into me and just like wedges me out of the way, and I'm thinking, who the fuck? It was a girl, real tall. She was a volleyball player, all-state volleyball player. And I just said, oh, okay, fuck it. So a couple days later...
Hey, man, we're on a family show, man.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait a minute, we're recording? We're live?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, never mind. Forget it. I don't need to tell you this.
No, come on, let's go. I want to hear it.
Well, no, what happened was, I'm at the podium. It was a, what do you call it? I was a sub-teacher to begin with. So I'm talking at the podium with some other student, and guess who comes up behind me, pushes herself against me, and puts her leg under, next to mine? This same girl.
Your volleyball player girl.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. And I was just stunned.
I should have been a teacher.
I'm in my 40s at this time, and I'm thinking, do her parents know what this kid is doing?
She's just looking for extra credit points, man. That's all she's doing.
Yes, but that's not the way to do it. So, it's pretty disgusting. But
she wasn't hot?
That's the way it goes.
Wow.
Oh, she was gorgeous. She was beautiful. She actually ended up playing volleyball, I think, at UC Berkeley.
Oh, my God.
I mean, this is a long time ago. This is at least, let's see, this is 18. Yeah, this must have been about 2005, 6,
Charlie, you got to get your priorities straight, man. That's exactly the way you get extra credit points. Dude. Well, you think that with her looks that she's going to need to get a job? Come on.
Well, that was the way it goes. For us guys, we never had a chance like that. Never, ever. Are you kidding? We never got a damn thing. It's just...
Yeah. Yeah, that's a shame.
That's all right.
Yeah. So, anyway, we haven't done a show in a long time, man.
Quite a bit. Quite a while.
Busy, been going crazy, doing shows, getting ready for another show. We got our North American Sports and Blockchain show coming up in August.
Yeah, so I got to help you with that.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I need to get on. I've got a couple of people lined up to talk to. Hopefully, I got to talk to them to see if they're on board with us.
Yeah.
But
we've got a few speakers already lined up. I'm in talks with a couple of sports celebrities to be coming on with making an appearance. We're trying to wrangle a couple of musical celebrities to come in and perform on the second night. So, yeah, we got a lot of things going on.
This would be great, man. I mean, and the thing is, it kind of segues into what we were going to talk about today.
Oh, shoot. I just shut off Charlie. Sorry, Charlie. That's the thing about clicking buttons and stuff. You forget what's on, what's not on. Oh my God. Yeah, we're calling through Telegram. How embarrassing. I just shut off the program that I'm talking to you on.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, why is that open? How I know why?
Because you were talking to me.
Yeah.
How do you think that makes me feel?
I've done that with my cell phone before when I've had my cell phone on Bluetooth and I'm sitting there and I'm driving and I look over my phone's on. I'm like, why's my phone on? And I shut my phone off in the middle of a conversation.
I've been telling you now for about 3 years, you need a secretary.
I do.
You really need a very competent secretary because I'm telling you, man.
Yeah, if anybody's out there that's looking to get a non-paying job, Please submit your resume. We're not being too picky at this point.
Right.
So so let's move on into what you were talking about before I hung up on you.
Yeah. Well, you know what? On February the 2nd of this year, we, Crypto the WonderDog, we did a podcast regarding decentralization.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it's one of our most popular downloaded podcasts.
Yeah.
And, at that time we said things were going to be moving very rapidly, that if decentralization and blockchain and cryptocurrencies were going to become real, or they're going to become literally manifest, they had to be able to prove that they could be decentralized, that they could take the place of already established methods and ways of doing things.
Yeah.
Well, guess what?
They have.
The U.S. Supreme Court has struck down restrictions on allowing, and it's going to allow states to get involved in sports gambling.
Yes.
To me, this is huge. I mean, for years, all you could do was either offshore betting or, Vegas. That was it. I mean, you basically had nowhere else to go unless you had some bookie in the corner somewhere.
Yeah.
But other than that, you had nothing. And what happened was that New Jersey decided to challenge this idea that, anybody could go out there or any state that had a hang could go out and start establishing sports books in their jurisdictions.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
And the Supreme Court actually did that. And that was, to me, remarkable, because that opens up blockchain sports, blockchain gambling, but specifically blockchain sports gambling.
Yeah.
And, that's... Yeah, and this comes on the heels of the fact that the IRS is going to start taxing, big cryptocurrency transactions. They're not going to give them any sort of tax breaks as they were before. Now they are capital gains taxes. And I suppose if you make any sort of winnings on your cryptocurrency or on cryptocurrency blockchain sports gambling, you're going to have to pay a regular tax on that as well. So.
Yeah.
You begin to see the kind of the synergy that's working its way into this thing, and you have to wonder if, in fact, there was some sort of IRS anticipation of this ruling. I'm not sure that they necessarily were, but you have to think that this New Jersey challenge to restrictions on state gambling or book gambling or sports gambling, that the IRS didn't anticipate that this was going to take place, and they moved and put themselves into a position to start collecting money on this. And it's that doesn't make sense, because they're trying to capitalize on, and really they're capitalizing on other people's other means of making money. That should they be taxing a lot of the things that are happening right now? And of course not. So. I like the way they just step right in and go, oh yeah, let's go ahead and do that, and we're going to take this chunk of your money. It's there's a lot of laws that need to be changed, and a lot of especially with the SEC and the IRS when it comes to this stuff. It just doesn't make sense. It's great that we're getting to do gambling, but you want to keep the majority of your winnings. You may want to just still keep it offshore. Well, the thing was that we talked to Kyle Forkey from Mariah Token. Yeah. And we were asking him specifically about the fact that overseas there are a lot of countries that are not going to tax or really do much regulation on cryptocurrency and blockchain transactions. And he said at the time, a lot of his clients who he helps to get their ICOs going say, look, it's either overseas or nowhere. They're just not going to consider doing anything in the United States, specifically because of the tax policies and the oversight that they're planning to put in at the federal level. Mm-hmm. So you have to wonder where the sports gambling sites are going to be moving. And again, we talked about decentralization and how important decentralization was going to be, because that was the primary marketing tool that a lot of the ICOs use or activate when they want to promote their cryptocurrencies. Is that it's not centrally controlled, that it's diffuse and dispersed. Well, going back to gambling, sports gambling, I have to wonder how this is going to work. If, in fact, cryptocurrency, and you've already talked, I believe, to several people who have, that are entrepreneurs, ICO or blockchain entrepreneurs who are going to be going into sports gambling. And at the time when we were talking, well, who's going to set the lines? The most important thing is when you, obviously, sports gambling.
Hey, Charlie, you're kind of
yeah.
You're kind of going in and out there. I don't know if you're moving around, but your audio is going in and out.
Okay, is this better?
Yeah. It was
okay.
it was like you were losing your bandwidth there for a second, but yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, well, maybe I should just get this close. Okay. Well, what I was saying before was that if blockchain is going to be a premier way of doing sports gambling, it has to be able to set its own lines. The one thing that I wondered and we talked about before is who's going to set the lines? Before you had just one booking agency or one set of bookies that would establish the methods, the lines, and the procedures that you would go about sports gambling. And I have to wonder if from now on with the blockchain, if that's now going to become something that individual gamblers are going to be able to establish the lines and the methods and the ways that they're going to gamble.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that one. You sent me a link to fansunite.io, and this is a protocol for sports betting applications on Ethereum.
Exactly.
Facilitating a fully decentralized ecosystem of sports betting applications that can accept wagers in any ERC token. And where'd you find that?
I believe it was on Bitcoinist. I think that's where I do a lot of research on that particular site.
On the Bitcoinist?
Yeah.
Okay.
And CoinDesk as well.
CoinDesk,
and
yeah.
I can't remember exactly where I found it. I just got so excited. I downloaded it and sent it out. And I didn't remember exactly. It could have been Cointelegraph, our friends at Cointelegraph. But quite frankly, I don't remember.
Yeah.
But I just thought that the story itself, that the article itself was fascinating because it's already beginning to show that entrepreneurs are beginning to move into this field. I'm pretty sure they anticipated the Supreme Court's ruling. And, we need to get somebody from one of these sports gambling sites, these crypto or blockchain sports gambling sites, to come on and give us the mechanism as to how they're going to do all the things I'm talking about, setting lines, the procedures, the methods. Because if they are capable of being able to take it away from Vegas or take it away from some sort of central booking authority, man, you really got something. This would be a major move to establish blockchain as a legitimate technology that can actually facilitate decentralization.
Yes, it is. Looking on their site here, their press, surprisingly, they got a little press from Forbes and Inc. magazine, which are two mainstream magazines. So it's fascinating that they got written up in there.
Yeah, well, sports gambling in itself, I think, is something like a $15 or $20 billion a year endeavor here in the United States. And that's a hell of a lot of money. So if you can start to make and chip away, because, quite frankly, I'm going to tell you a story about why I got out of sports gambling. And I know I sent you the link about what happened back in 2002, and we've talked about this before. There was a college football game between Wisconsin and University of Nevada, Las Vegas, UNLV. And the game was played in Vegas. Well, the reason I remember this so vividly was because I put a really big bet down on Wisconsin. The lines were kind of wonky at the time, or at least in my estimation they were. And I thought, Wisconsin is just going to walk all over this. I mean, this is going to be a really, what I thought was going to be a pretty easy bet. And sure enough, it was. And by the fourth quarter, Wisconsin was way, more than covered the line. You knew that there was not going to be any way to for UNLV to overcome it. And I figured I was going to make a really nice little sum of money. So I went to bed, and telling my girlfriend at the time that, well, maybe we'll have a nice little vacation somewhere. Primarily based on these winnings. I wake up the next morning and I go to check, my ledger or my bookie, and there was nothing there. There was no recognition. There was nothing that showed that I had won the bet. And I thought, what happened? Well, what happened was there's a certain minimum amount of time that a football game has to be played before it's considered official. I think it's like, I can't remember exactly what it is, but if they don't fulfill that time, then the game is not counted. The same thing with betting. Well, with 2 minutes left before the official time, before that deadline, the lights went out. All power went out at UNLV Stadium. And so therefore all bets were off.
Oh.
Everything was gone. And I kept thinking to myself, look, what are the chances? Because being a gambler, you play the odds. What are the chances that a car, because the official narrative was that a car crashed into some transformer and all the power went out in this particular location. Not all throughout the city, mind you, just in the area where the football game was being played. And so I said, that was it. That was the end of it. I mean, I'm not saying necessarily that there was a conspiracy to end this game that way, and
because they knew you were betting. They're like, Charlie's betting. Let's screw this game up for him.
Yeah, let's do that. I'm not that narcissistic. I'm not that self-obsessed. But I was thinking, what are the odds that this thing happened? Because I know a lot of money moved. A lot of people saw the same thing I saw with that very wonky line. And I said, you know what? That's it. I'm done. I'm never going to go back in. If one group of people can control, the situation to the point that this kind of stuff happens and I lose my money or at least don't make any, I'm not going to get involved.
Mm.
But if you have a possibility of taking that, the lines, the bookie play, all of that away from, let's say, one centralized authority, and you have it as a blockchain, and you have, peer-to-peer gambling,
mm-hmm.
I might just start looking into this.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, it might bring me back in. That was 16 years ago. It's been 16 years since I played sports, did a sports gamble or sports play. And after I take a look, and I recommend anybody who's out there who does any sort of sports gambling, look into this. Look into the blockchain. I'm not necessarily, neither Dean or I are recommending that you do this.
No, not at all.
What we're recommending is that you look into it and see if, in fact, it does fulfill that kind of decentralization away from those centralized booking authorities, and maybe allows you to have a little bit of freedom as to how you play this game, or a lot more freedom as to how you make a play.
Yeah, I'm very interested in it too. I haven't done in fact, I haven't done any sports betting online. I think a guy that I used to work with, he used to do bets for me, but you would call up and it was over the phone and stuff, and I didn't really get involved with that way. But yeah, I just haven't done it. But looks very interesting. I'm a craps player myself. I love rolling the bones. And I'm not smart enough to count cards.
Right.
So I can't play 21. But yeah, it's fun. I for a minute even considered moving to Vegas, but then I thought, no, I don't want to move to Vegas.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you a funny quick story about. There's a mutual friend of ours that you and I know, and a great guy. His name's Dan. I'm just not going to tell you his last name, but his name's Dan. You know him pretty well. Well, Dan was the guy, and I've known Dan for about 30 years, roughly. We worked together as accountants, and we've just been friends and collaborators on a lot of other projects. Well, he started me in sports gambling. He was the guy who told me how to set or what to look for and how to get going. And he said, and I used to gamble through him, but I wanted to establish my own account. So at the time, you had to call, at least in this place, you had to call Costa Rica. And So I did. I called this number, this offshore number, and the guy said, well, he told me what I had to do and how do I go about setting an account. And this was right after the football season ended, and there was the Pro Bowl. And that was about the only play that you could make at football at the time. And the guy said, hey, listen, if you get your money in now or in the next few minutes, I can let you play in the Pro Bowl. And I thought, the Pro Bowl, that's like, betting on dogs, dog racing. I mean, you have to be a real degenerate, a really, despicable human being to play. You just have to be really something wrong with you to play with the Pro Bowl. And even the guy agreed. The guy said, well, yeah, you got to be pretty bad to do that. We don't get much play on it. I said, oh yeah, I know. No, I'll pass, but thanks. 2 hours later, Dan calls me up and he says, hey, I just played the Pro Bowl. And he was so happy, and he was just saying, oh yeah, and I had this play. So, I mean, there are some real degenerates out there that I'm pretty sure that'll burn up the lines with blockchain gambling. So that's something to keep an eye on. Anyway, I thought I'd just tell that story. Dan, if you're out there, we still love you, buddy. You're a great guy. I just had to tell that story, man.
That was good, man.
Yeah.
Well, getting involved with this project that we're doing, the sports and blockchain. That's one of the main features of this conference is going to be sports gambling and e-games. But there's a lot of sports gambling that's going to be involved with this, and I think it's going to be really good and showing how that these ICOs and tokenization and everything is it's going to help a lot of people. And I think we were talking about how it's going to help the college teams, the ones that their sports teams or programs are losing funding, and they're not.
Yeah.
They can't go out and play. They don't have enough money for equipment. So, when talking with the guys over at Sustaining, they're actually working on a project right now very similar to that, and I think that they can kind of just pivot that and take that template and lay it right down on top of a sports team that's failing, and I think could turn it around.
Yeah, well, if you take a look at I think there's 117 D1 division football teams, and out of the 117, I think only maybe less than 20, maybe 15 make money on their athletic departments. The bulk of them lose money. They just can't withstand. I mean, it is just too expensive a proposition to go out there and be competitive at things like both basketball and football, the two sports. It just can't be done. And you come from New Mexico. Both University of New Mexico and New Mexico State are having severe problems with their athletic departments. They just cannot afford them.
That's crazy.
They're just running out of money. It's crazy. And then you take a look at some of the schools here, like Cal Berkeley, University of California, Berkeley. This is a major program. This is one of the biggest. They have a huge endowment, one of the bigger public universities in America. Their athletic department is losing money. You can go across the board. Texas Tech, where you lived for a while, up in Lubbock.
Yeah,
they're hemorrhaging money in their athletic department.
Yeah, which is crazy because there's so much oil around there, and that's how I grew up. I grew up outside of Lubbock, and I went to a tiny little high school, and everything was paid for, and I just thought that was the norm. I didn't know that other schools made you pay for your own cleats, your helmet, your pads. Even like gym shorts. Like, we were provided everything, and I thought that was the norm. And I came to California, and these kids are going out and they're buying their own helmets, and I'm like, what are you doing? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I didn't have to buy anything. Even our musical instruments in high school band, like, we were provided everything, So, and because of our school was, they owned oil fields. They owned the rights to the land where the oil was coming out of, and so our school was freaking rich. So that's why we were able to do that, and it was because of oil. So coming out here to California, where there's 10 billion kids, and now I get it. Now I know why they can't provide a helmet for every kid. They can't provide gym shorts and running shoes for every kid because,
they just don't have the money. Look, I'm so glad you brought this up because the LA Unified School District is the second largest in America in terms of student population, and they literally cannot provide, in many cases, a football team that functions. They just are facing the problems that they don't have the money to develop an athletic program, to develop athletes. And now there's one school that you're probably close to or familiar. You're in Orange County, and there's a place called Long Beach Poly. Now they're not in the city. They're not LA Unified School District. They're part of the Long Beach Unified School District. And just to go into how schools can possibly look into blockchain as a way of financing, Long Beach Poly, if any of our listeners want to do a little bit of a Google search, is probably one of the preeminent high school programs in America. If you just take a look at the list of athletes that have come out of there, that have ended up in the NFL, specifically the NFL or the NBA, it's an amazing testimony to how much talent comes out of that one school. Well, last year, as great as this school was, as much of a legacy as they had to drop their JV football team. They just didn't have the money to go out and start developing or to field a team. First of all, because there are not enough kids in the area that are willing to go and play football. They don't have the money to go out and spend on cleats and all the other things that they need at the Pop Warner level, junior high level. They just don't have the money. So even a school as preeminent and as memorable or as famous as Long Beach Poly High School is facing the situation that, within a few years, they may not be able to field athletic teams or competitive teams of the past. They just don't have the money. So if this is happening at the high school level, you can imagine what's happening at the college level. And so this is one of the things we talked about before. We interviewed Eamon Donlan and the fellow from Global Talent, Sunil Bharadwaj.
Yeah.
And they both talked about how blockchain is a way for the common man and for poor, relatively poor people or people that don't have a remarkable amount of money to become entrepreneurs and to basically raise financing that particular way in ways they could never do before. And this may be the way to do that specifically for one field. And we've talked about this time and again, movie making.
Yes, our favorite pastime.
Yeah, our favorite pastime. And I sent you that article about how blockchain is now beginning to be used as a way to finance movies. Because the old method of financing movies was let me back up a little bit. Let me give you a preface. We've heard of guys like Spielberg and Lucas and all the other guys and the Weinsteins and all of the moguls of Hollywood. They don't finance their own movies. No. Ladies and gentlemen, they don't use their own money to produce their films. They borrow it. They have to go to Wall Street. Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan does a lot of financing of movies. If you want, take a look at Harvey Weinstein. Even a creep like Harvey Weinstein had to borrow something like $400 or $500 million from a company called Opus Bank down in California, which is owned by a bunch of on the board of trustees of Opus Bank are a lot of hedge funds. That's who finances your movies. And if they don't like what you have or they don't like what you're trying to do, you just don't get the money. And you have no access anyway through the studios because that's where all the money flows.
Yep.
But guess what? That's all changing because with blockchain, you may not need to go. You may bypass that bottleneck of financing and just go directly through blockchain and peer-to-peer financing.
That's great because that would really help out a lot of people who have great ideas, but they just don't have the right connections to Hollywood. So to be able to do this. So Bitcoin funding, a company that allows filmmakers and producers to access the power of the blockchain and cryptocurrency to raise money for their film. In many ways, it is the next evolution of currency as we know it. Our job is to help you raise money quickly and easily. Our expertise ensures that the funds raised are SEC compliant and streamlined. Scroll down to see more about how it works. So this is a website called bitcoinfunding.com. Bitcoinfilmfunding.com. And this is very fascinating, and I hope that people are taking advantage of this, and I hope this is real. I mean, there's a lot of scams out there, so I hope that they're actually doing what they say they're going to do here.
Well, there are companies that are already beginning to do that, and I think a couple of films have already been made. I'll have to get you a link, and we'll have to follow up again with this, because to me this is another a sign of decentralization and how blockchain is going to facilitate decentralization. Because, excuse me, as it stands right now, you have just a tiny group of men, and they are men, who control that business. Well, people aren't going to films anymore. Just because you control it and just because you make it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go. We've said this in the past. Last year in 2017 was the worst year for ticket sales, movie ticket sales, since 1991, 92. It's almost 30 years ago. Just because you build it doesn't necessarily mean people are going to go. Hollywood, and again, this is just my point of view, my opinion, but they had a really stupid business model. They didn't seem to realize that people aren't getting wealthier, and they don't need to go to theaters to be entertained anymore.
No, they don't.
So instead of acknowledging that, you know what they did? They kept raising prices. Ticket prices are nearly, on average in the United States, they're nearly $9 a ticket. They're like $8.75, $8.90.
What are you talking? Because I haven't seen a $9 ticket in years. My tickets are, even at Costco, they're like $17, $18 for one ticket at Costco. So
yeah,
I mean,
I know
it's $20-something if you go there. And then we typically go to the VIP seats where you get they have the recliners and you get they bring food to you, and that's $35 for right there.
There's not a movie out there. I'm sorry. This is my opinion, and anybody can chime in and say I'm crazy, but there's not a movie out there that's worth $70 for two people to go see.
Absolutely not.
I'm sorry. There just isn't. And right now, movies, I think filmmakers are beginning to finally realize that they made some really stupid decisions in terms of their business models. That, there's something in economics called inelastic demand, or elastic and inelastic demand. In other words, even if you raise the price for some product, people are still going to buy it at the same level because they absolutely need it. Nobody needs to go see a movie at a theater. No, believe it or not, Hollywood and everybody else, nobody needs to see your movies.
No.
Honestly, nobody needs to have cable. They don't need it. So you made some decisions that, in my opinion, were really, really stupid, thinking that this can go on forever. And let me point out something. You remember Steven Soderbergh, the guy who did all the Ocean's 11 films?
Yeah.
He just made a movie, and it's called Unsane. And I know you and I talked about this. This is Steven Soderbergh, folks, one of the the elite filmmakers in Hollywood. He just made this movie Unsane for a supposed budget of $1.5 million, and he shot it on an iPhone. That's what they say he shot it on an iPhone.
Yeah.
So I wonder how much he kept and how much actually was used for production.
Oh my God! Well, yeah.
What does that tell you? It tells you
in theaters, March 23rd.
Yep.
It was in theaters. A movie shot on an iPhone in theaters. Think about that. 10 years ago, whenever what was it? 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when the iPhone came out, it didn't even have video. You could only take stills on it, and they weren't really even that good. But they were, it was better than anything else that was out there. But think, in 10 years, we've gone from a phone that wouldn't take video to a phone that's now producing Hollywood movies.
Exactly. That is precisely my point. Talk about decentralization, because you know what it tells you? If you can, if this guy can make a movie, and he's just a guy, he's nobody special. Believe me, folks, none of these people are as special as you think they are. Then anybody can make a movie.
It's the people that's surrounding them. It's the people that they hire around them. Yeah.
Yep. That's it. And if they can do that on an iPhone, you can do it. You know, it doesn't mean you're going to make something great, but you can. It's obviously telling you that a guy like Steven Soderbergh has seen the future, and the future is a decentralized method of entertainment, or filmmaking at least, that's going to get away from all this. Because $1.5 million, he could probably pay that out of his own pocket. Let's just say he could, or let's just say he did. That would probably be something he could easily raise, or at least help. That's an amount that's doable. Yeah. You can actually probably go on some other social media sites, go fund whatever other methods that there are, and you might be able to raise maybe $400,000 to shoot something on an iPhone. And with the various kinds of outlets for films like Amazon or Google, you might just be able to get some kind of release of these films. You might just be able to defuse and decentralize the film industry. Yeah. Because here you go. Here it is. It's proven right here. This, if everything that we're being told is true. Now, granted, it's coming from Hollywood, and I tend not to believe much of what Hollywood tells me. But if that's true, or at least close to the truth, well, you can kiss Hollywood goodbye. The Hollywood we knew is gone, buddy.
Yeah, Tinseltown. It's no longer there. It's just a street full of vagrants and people that pee in alleys, and people asking for bumming a cigarette off you.
Sounds like Santa Ana, but I digress.
Oh man! So, well, this is great, man, and we've got a bunch of movies that we're gonna need to get going and start making. Man, we got to get making movies again. It's my passion, my love. And my daughter.
And you're good.
My daughter's making movies now too. So she actually just picked her up from school a while ago. She brought a camera home from the school. They're filming a movie trailer tomorrow in her school. Mm-hmm. Her and a couple other girls were filming movies. So very proud of her, getting out there.
You should be.
Yeah.
God, it's hard to believe she's gotten this big, but I mean that's progress, and you should be proud of that kid. She's a good kid.
Yeah. So, well, that's kind of it in a nutshell for me and you here. Oh, we had. So what was this other 5 films financed by cryptocurrencies? I was trying to look and see what those were, but I'm not sure if I see these. Singular DTV is creating a new frontier of its own with a peer-to-peer funding and distribution platform. So I'm going to check that out. Singular DTV. This is it's really, really good news.
And you know what? We have a lot of different listeners to our podcast. We're still one of the most popular iTunes technology downloads.
Yes, thank you. Make sure you like and subscribe. I keep forgetting to say that when I'm doing these. Like this lady told me, make sure you tell people to like and subscribe and click that bell. Make sure you're notified whenever our new videos come out. And leave a comment. We love it. We don't get too many comments, but
we don't.
Nice if somebody did. Just give us a little nudge.
But we're doing a public service here, because we're telling our listeners, hey, listen, take a look around you. Yeah. Decentralization is happening in the film industry. Mm-hmm. If they're shooting it on an iPhone, you can do something as well. Yeah. So look into it. We're trying to tell you, Dean and I are trying to at least elevate the knowledge of blockchain and the capacity and at least the promise of blockchain. Yeah. So folks, we're doing our public service, and go out there, check into it, get back to us, let us know what you're doing.
Yeah, we'll have all of these links in the show notes. If you're on iTunes, we didn't get to see any of this stuff. You can watch it if you go to YouTube and watch the show on YouTube, but if you're on iTunes, check the show notes. We'll have these links in there for you. And So there you go, Charlie.
Thank you so much for having me
Good
on.
talking to you,
We got to
man.
do this again.
I know it.
And
We keep saying
and
that.
we're going to start working on that that show in August. We got to
Yes,
crack it up.
yes. The North American Sports and Blockchain. Please make sure that you mark that in your calendars. It's August 6th is the evening reception and VIP party. We're going to have a few sports celebrities there, hanging out with you, doing selfies, taking pictures, signing autographs, drinking a little bit, and telling war stories about the days on the gridiron. And then we have the 7th and the 8th, which are going to be the main show with lots of stuff to do. Man, we're packing this in, man. I don't even know if we can get it done in 2 days, but there's going to be a lot of things to do. So if you guys aren't there, you're square.
But you got to remember something. On the third day is completely reserved for Dean and I. We are going to be roped off.
Yes.
It's going to be just. We're going to have a bunch of bodyguards, and you have to be special to come and talk to us. And
I'm going to have a kissing booth. I'm going to have people. I'm going to have kiss me for a Bitcoin.
Yeah, well, there you go. I'm a little bit more sophisticated. I'll actually have to you'll have to take me out to dinner because I'm that special. But again, look for us. We're going to be roped off.
Yeah.
We're going to have the bodyguards and all of that. So
I'll be the one in the pimp hat and the carrying around a chalice that's all blinged out. Bitcoin medallions around my neck.
Oh Lordy.
Yeah.
God.
We're gonna have fun, man.
And I went to college for this. I'm telling you, man.
Yeah. See, you wasted all that time, man. I didn't spend one day in college. Look at me.
What the hell can I say, man?
Yeah.
Life is that way. All right, buddy. I'm gonna let you go.
Okay. All right, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care, and thanks, folks, for listening to us.
Yeah.